What's going on, everybody? Tim here, and I'd like to welcome you to my new YouTube channel, the title of which is Abundant Sobriety. This channel is only gonna be about sobriety motivation. Now, I don't claim to be a therapist, a counselor, anything like that. I'm just a guy who was blessed to have the opportunity to get sober. And I realized that that was probably one of the biggest achievements in my life. And a lot of the things in recent years I've been blessed to be able to do came because I got sober. So on like my main channel, because I have a couple different channels here on YouTube, on my main channel, I talk a lot about, goals and dreams and living your best life. But I realized, when we're struggling with addiction, when we're still in the throes of addiction, a lot of that stuff we can't do. I know I wouldn't have been able to do some of the stuff I'm doing now if I was still drunk. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I might have been able to start it, but I wouldn't have been able to finish it. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it on the level I do it now. So even though I've made sobriety videos on my other channel, I said I want to have a channel that is totally about sobriety because I think it's that important. I think it is one of the most important messages you can put out into the world, into the universe, is that addiction is not forever. Millions of people have broke free from it, and you can too. I personally feel that like everybody can. It is just a process, and I want to make videos that hopefully helps people through that process. Now, in today's video, real quick, for those of you who don't know me, I just wanted to go over like my sobriety story, my addiction / sobriety story. So my addiction of choice was alcohol. Your boy loved to drink. I'll be honest, I still love to drink now. I just don't allow myself to do it. You know what I mean? I had to come to terms with that. Like, your boy, something in my body is always gonna love to drink. It's just that I don't allow myself to do it anymore. It's been 4 years since I had a drink, okay? And I started out, up until like 20 years old, I was, going to church several different times a week, heavy into religion, things of that nature. So and so was my whole family. So like I didn't come up in a drinking or partying or drug, any type of environment like that. When I started drinking, it was just kind of like, my friends were doing it. Got a good friend one time who had a place and we worked together and we would go over his place after work and we would drink. Also where I got introduced to weed, but like weed or any other drug never really appealed to me. Like I'd smoke weed, but it never really stuck with me. No other drug ever really appealed to me, but the alcohol was calling my name. And like most people in the beginning, like you don't realize it's a problem. Like you just enjoy doing it. You enjoy drinking, you enjoy partying, people come around, girls, it's a fun time. And you realize that like, yeah, there's some side effects, but everybody else has the same side effects. I think that's why like alcohol sneaks up on you, and the addiction to it sneaks up on you, because everybody goes through like the same issues with it, especially in the beginning. Like I said, I was from a household, nobody ever, got drunk. So I didn't know about, people being drunks and it ruined their lives. I just knew that when people drunk, they had hangovers. I had one, all my friends had one. I didn't see there being a problem. I had no concept that could turn into a problem. But as we all know, as I kept drinking, I started to notice that I was the one with the most extreme, like bad behavior. Okay. I was the one with the worst hangovers. My hangovers were, from the very beginning, my hangovers were horrible. Everybody else the next day was up, ready to drink again. Tim was still in bed. Hangovers were always the worst. But over time, the behaviors got worse. Okay. And I started to notice, I'm kind of reacting to this alcohol different than other people. Like they may go out on Friday, get a little crazy, whatever, but I'm drinking every night of the week, drinking myself to sleep every night. And when I go out on Friday, I'm ending up, getting kicked out of the club. I'm getting in fights, almost getting arrested. My friends have to like talk the cops out of arresting me. Just all this stuff. And it was pretty regular. You know what I mean? It was on a regular basis. And that's when I first started realizing like, okay, there might be some type of problem here, but I love doing it. So I kept doing it. In fact, I feel like I started drinking more because I needed to drink away the ideal that like I had a problem. I just couldn't, I didn't want to deal with it. So what do we do when we don't want to deal with something? We turn to our addiction, so I just kept going. And, all through my 20s, and then into my 30s. And I really realized I had a problem like in my 30s because a lot of my friends who partied in their 20s were starting to back off from it. People were getting kids and they were growing up. And there was like really two schools of like people from my 20s into my 30s. There was the majority of the people who quit, and then there was the people who just went even harder with drugs and alcohol and kept going. And I remember always being like, man, I don't like being in this group over here who is still doing all this crazy stuff, you know? But you're in the throes of addiction. You just keep going. And so, you know, the behaviors got worse, you know, wrecking cars, ending up in jail, ruining relationships. The blackouts started happening, and the hangovers were turning into like 2-day hangovers. You know, my bladder control went out the window. I'm getting drunk, peeing all over the place. You know, I can't spend the night at somebody's house because I'm going to pee the bed. Like all this crazy stuff. All this crazy stuff just kept happening, and I kept drinking. And it was around this time, I think like the first time, well, actually the only time I went to jail because of drinking. I quit for like 8 months. And that was the first time I realized, oh, I think different and I feel different when I'm sober. Because, you know, I'd been drinking for, you know, a decade or more. I don't remember how I felt pre-alcohol in my life. You know, so I took that 8 months off, then I went back drinking. But that's when I remember, like, oh, my mind is clearing up, like I feel better. And even though I relapsed from that and I went back drinking for many years, I never forgot that. And I was like, you know what? I am not enjoying this drunk Tim, okay? this drunk Tim lifestyle. I enjoy it for about 3 hours, you know, in the evening. And then I'm either passing out, going to sleep, or, you know, I'm out partying, and that's when I get really drunk and I start trying to fight people. And I'm like, you know, cursing out girls because like they don't want to sleep with me immediately the moment they meet me, you know. She's like, give me time, Tim, dang. You know, I'm like, ah, you know, I'm like, I'm not really liking this. I was like, I want to get, and I know this isn't me. It's like, I want to get back to the Tim back when I quit that 8 months, when I had a clear mind and like I was waking up every single day, not hungover, you know, just enjoying my weekends. I was like, I want to get back to that. So I started trying to do that. And so I worked the process. And y'all know how it is. Y'all know how it is. It is a lot of thinking you're done with it. Okay, I've made it. I've been sober for 2 weeks. This is the one, and then you drink again. Okay, I've made it. I've been sober for a week. Then you drink again. I've been sober for a month. I feel it this time. I know this is the one. I'm never drinking again. Then you drink again. Or you wake up really hungover, or you know, just have a really bad night, and you're like, I'm never drinking again. Next day you're drinking again. And it is that ongoing cycle, and quite possibly just one of the most depressing, demoralizing, just dark times of my life, because I had this monkey on my back and I couldn't seem to get it off. And it's just, you just wanted it to go away. And a lot of times the reason we start drinking again is because we're trying to get it to go away. He's like, hey, every time I try to get sober, there's this fight and I always lose. Screw it, I'm just gonna drink again. But that, you know, that might work for a day or two, and then you're back like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. In a story I tell many times, the day I knew I was gonna get sober, it took many years still to get so, a couple years still to get sober, but I knew I was gonna get sober. It was one day I was sitting in my RV, small town, Chattahoochee, Florida. I was living there because I actually ended up there because I had nowhere else to go because some bad decisions I made. But a friend of mine let me rent an RV from him. I was working with him, and you know, I was just sitting there, no beer in the fridge, and I wanted to walk up the hill and go get some beer, but I also didn't want to. And so I was going through that internal struggle. We've all been there. And I was like, Tim, you know what? I'm so tired of this fight. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that all the bad behavior, you know, the jail, the accidents, the broken relationships, the broken trust, all this craziness, if you can say that that's actually you and you could accept that and embrace that, then we can drink the rest of our lives, okay? I had an uncle that around that time had drank himself basically to death. So I'm like, hey, we can go out like Unc if we need to. It's a family tradition, screw it. I was like, but if you can't admit that that's you, if you can't accept that, then we have to stop, bro. Like, that's the only way we're ever gonna find peace. And in that moment, I sat there and I tried. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I tried to be able to embrace it. I tried, because like I said, your boy loves to drink. So I tried to be able to, like, you know what? Hey, well, we might die, you know, 30 years early, but it'll be fun, you know? I tried to embrace it. I was like, I can't, bro. Like, it's not me. I'm not that guy. That's me when I interact with the alcohol. Me without the alcohol, I'm a totally different person. I don't do none of that stuff. And that's when I knew. I'm like, all right, we can't do this. We got to fight. And so that's when I really started working the process. I had some ups and downs throughout that. I was sober for like a year and a half, and then I relapsed. Just out of the blue one day, I was like, I feel like drinking again. That was crazy. I had a little situation with, little minor heartbreak or something like that. And I was just like, you know what, screw it, I'm drinking again. But even then, when I relapsed that time, I was like, this is temporary. And it was 2 to 3 months. And then I stopped drinking again, and it's been 4 years, over 4 years since then. So that's just real quick, kind of my story. I definitely know what it's like. Like I said, alcohol was my drug of choice, but so I may not know what it's like for other addictions. There's so many addictions, folks. There's porn, there's gambling, there's sex, there's drugs. There's so many addictions. You got people addicted to working out. You know what I mean? Like there's so many addictions. And I definitely, even though we may not have the same addiction, I definitely know, that struggle of when you finally realize. I know the struggle when you don't realize it's a problem, but life is crappy half the time or 2/3 of the time because of it. But definitely once you realize it's a problem and you get in that area where you're trying so hard to stop and it doesn't seem to be working, and you're just like, please, I just need to stop. I need to stop. That's why I always tell people, exhaust every option. I am not a group type person. I'm very introverted, so I didn't go to like AA or any type of therapy or group or like that. But if that's you, do it. Who cares what people say? Just don't tell them you're going, or tell them, and you know what I mean? This is something you got to do to get your life where it needs to be. It doesn't matter what you have to do to it. There are so many other different options out there. I don't care if, a lot of people's like, well, there's option for like other not as like addictive substances you can take to like wean yourself off. If you feel like that's what you need to do it. If medication is what you need to do it. If rehab is what you need to do it. Do whatever you need to do. Okay? To stay working the process. It is a process. I'm a firm believer that like nobody quits cold turkey. And maybe 0.001% of people say, oh, I'm never doing it again, and don't. People who say they quit cold turkey struggled and went back and forth for a while, and then one day they finally stopped, and they conveniently forget, a lot of them, that 3-4 years they were struggling, on the wagon, off the wagon, on the wagon, off the wagon. I think that's just like, and I look at it this way. If you've been drinking or whatever it is you've been doing for like 10 years, you have built up like, I don't even want to say muscle memory, but damn near that too. But also like you have programmed your brain that this is what you do. There's nothing in life that you can do for 10 years or 20 years or however long, we do our addictions, and then just stop it in one day. There's nothing. Like you've programmed yourself that like this is a part of your life, and it takes time to reprogram yourself, reprogram your brain to realize that's not what you do. And that's what the process is. That's why we quit, we relapse, we quit, we relapse, because it's a reprogramming of our brain. You've been doing this a long time. And the price we pay is it takes a while, not as long. You might, be drinking for 10 years, and it might take you a year and a half to finally like work the process, get sober. It won't take the same amount of time, but it takes some time. There's a lot of like mental and physical readjustments that have to go on for you to like get sober and stay sober. And so my message is always like, work the process. Don't beat yourself up. Everybody who's sober went through the same process. They went through the same process for varying lengths of time. You'll go through it for the amount of time you have to go through it, but you will win. You will come out victorious on the other side, but you got to keep working it. Every day you don't drink, every day you don't do whatever it is that you're addicted to is a win. You know how much strength it takes for like you to really, really, really want to do something and then you not do it for a whole day when you're used to doing it every day? It is a win. You are winning if last year you drank every single day and this year you only drank 7 months out the year. That's a win. That is a win. Every day you don't drink is a win. Every day you stay away from your addiction is a win. And after you accumulate enough wins, then you've reprogrammed your mind, reprogrammed your body, and it's like, oh, okay, we don't have to do that. It goes from this is what we do to sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't, to like, oh, we don't do that at all. And I'm here to tell you, sobriety is amazing. My life so much better. I feel like I'm alive every single day now. Whereas before, y'all know how it is. There's so many days that it was just getting back normal and then getting drunk. Like there were so many days I didn't really live. I was either sick in bed all day, or I was, sick in bed half the day, then drinking again, or drinking all day. So there are so many beautiful things that come from sobriety, and that is actually what my next video is going to be about. I'm going to be talking about, 10 amazing things that happen when you get sober. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, subscribe to that. Be on the lookout for that video. We can do this, ladies and gentlemen. We can all get sober. We can be ourselves 24/7, every moment of the day, every day of the year. I love each and every one of y'all. Talk to y'all later.